Hey there, if you're looking into IVF, there's a good chance a very specific question has crossed your mind. One that feels both incredibly futuristic and deeply personal. Can you actually choose the sex of your baby? Well, in this explainer, we're going to get right into the science, the ethics, and the real-world answers behind that very question. So this is the big one, right? The idea of choosing your baby's gender during IVF. It's a question that brings up so much. Everything from simple curiosity and hopes for family planning, all the way to some pretty deep ethical questions. Let's start to unpack it together. And if this question is on your mind, you are definitely not alone. Fertility specialists hear this all the time, particularly from international couples who are trying to figure out their options across different countries and legal systems. So where do we even start to find an answer? It all begins with the science. To get to the truth of this, we have to talk about a specific piece of medical tech. It's called PGTA. And here's the surprising part. Its main purpose has nothing to do with gender at all. So what is this test actually for? And how did it even get tangled up in this conversation? Okay, so PGTA stands for Preimplantation Genetic Testing for aneuploidy. The easiest way to think about it is like the very first health checkup an embryo can get. Its number one job is to make sure the embryo has the right number of chromosomes. That's 46 to be exact. See, having the correct number is a huge indicator of an embryo's health and its chances of leading to a successful pregnancy. The process itself is pretty amazing. First, embryos are created in the lab. Then, a specialist carefully takes a tiny sample of cells from each one. That little sample is tested to count its chromosomes, and the results become a guide, helping doctors pinpoint the embryo that has the best shot at becoming a healthy baby. And here it is. This is the crucial connection. While that test is scanning for overall chromosome health, it can't help but notice the sex chromosomes. XX for female and XY for male. And just like that, the sex of the embryo is known. Not because anyone was specifically looking for it, but as a kind of side effect of this health screening. And this piece of information brings us right to the heart of the whole debate. Just because we can know something, does that mean we're allowed to act on it? This is exactly where the science runs headfirst into ethics and the law. This idea is so important. Knowing an embryo's sex is just a piece of data, but using that data to make a choice, that's an action. And it's an action that's governed by a really complex web of laws and ethical rules. That distinction, it's everything. Let's break this down. So on one hand, yes, PGTA can reveal the sex of an embryo. That's just a medical fact. But on the other hand, whether a clinic is actually allowed to use that information for selection, well, that's a legal and ethical minefield. In a lot of countries, the answer is a firm no, unless it's to prevent a serious genetic disease that's linked to sex. Using it for personal preference, what people often call family balancing, is usually not allowed. And you've got to understand, there isn't one simple global answer. The rules are layered. It starts with national laws, which then trickle down to specific ethical codes. And finally, it comes down to the individual policies of the exact clinic you choose. In a country like Malaysia, for example, these ethical considerations are a really central part of medical practice. With all these rules and ethical debates flying around, it's easy to get lost. But for doctors and fertility specialists, the focus always comes back to one thing: the health of the embryo. That is the true north, the guiding star of the entire IVF process. And really, this is the bottom line. From a medical point of view, the surest way to a healthy pregnancy isn't about choosing a gender. It's about choosing potential. The goal is always to select the embryo that is chromosomally normal and has the absolute highest chance of developing into a healthy baby. Think about it. Every single step in the IVF journey, from start to finish, is all designed to achieve one ultimate outcome: transferring the highest quality embryo to create a safe pregnancy that results in the birth of a healthy child. Everything else is secondary to that mission. And this might be the most important takeaway of all. Choosing an embryo based on its sex over one that is chromosomally healthier does not increase your chances of getting pregnant. In fact, it could do the exact opposite. If you prioritize preference over health, you might end up choosing a less viable embryo, and that could compromise the entire cycle. So we've looked at the science and the regulations, but at the end of the day, this is your journey. So how do you take all this information and find the answers that actually apply to you? Look, This is not a topic with a simple, one-size-fits-all answer you can find online. It's sensitive, it's deeply personal, and the absolute best way to get real clarity for your unique situation is to have a direct, private conversation with a fertility specialist. A professional consultation completely replaces internet guessing games with actual facts. You'll learn the real laws for your region, not just rumors. You'll understand the clinic's specific ethical policies so there are no surprises. You can discuss if there are any medical reasons this applies to your case, and you'll get a clear picture of the real costs and timelines involved.
And hey, if you happen to be watching from Malaysia or Singapore, it's really good to know that many clinics now offer online consultations. This just makes it so much easier to get that personalized, expert advice without even having to travel.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. Real clarity doesn't come from having all the answers yourself, but from knowing the right questions to ask. As you think about your next steps, what really matters most to you? What are the key questions you need answered to move forward with confidence on your journey?